Welcome in to episode 19 of the Cleveland Sports Realm. I'm Jerome. There's Kevin in his spot. There's Derek across the room in his spot. And we are here to bring you another hopefully entertaining and enlightening episode of Cleveland Sports Talk and obviously some other bigger stories in the sports realm here this evening. So we're going to talk everything that we think is important for the week, and let's get it started. What do you think there, buddy?
I'm ready, man. It's been a couple weeks almost since we last actually were in the studio to record, so I'm pretty excited to get back after. We got a lot to talk about.
Yes, we do, and we are going to start with news that shook Browns fans everywhere on Sunday morning. In fact, when I discovered the news, to be quite frank about it, I was at a local establishment out having some breakfast and a few beers with some buddies and my brother, and turned around on the TV and saw it and was shocked. But the news that I reference is Myles Garrett will not be going anywhere. Basically, we wasted our whole last podcast talking about where he would go, what would happen, and none of it ended up amounting to anything. But Myles Garrett back here for a 4-year, $160 million extension, $123 million fully guaranteed, highest guarantee for a non-quarterback in NFL history.
I believe it's the largest contract for a non-quarterback in NFL history at this moment, at least, right?
Yeah, and that'll get beat by Parsons or Watt or one of those guys. But nonetheless,
as we speak
on Tuesday, March 11th, it is the highest guarantee for a non-quarterback in NFL history. And it adds to the current 2 years of his deal with immediate raises. So the Browns now have Myles Garrett and Andrew Berry at last. You are not a moron in this sense. He will go with this contract from Cleveland to Canton.
Yeah, you would think at this point, right? And obviously it's nice for us to be able to keep him. You know, that's a player that I never wanted to see in another uniform. You know, somebody we drafted, obviously homegrown talent, been the best defensive player. You could argue we both think that he's the best defensive player in Cleveland Browns history. Now, when it comes to the current, Cleveland Browns and if it's smart for the team to do it or not, I think you could argue either way for it. Obviously if this is a team that feels like they're, a rookie quarterback away from actually competing, it might make sense to keep him around. Now, in my eyes, I think we're closer to a rebuild than being in that Super Bowl contention at the moment. So I thought it did make sense, at least for the Browns, to look at parting ways with him and getting some draft capital. So I think you could argue either way on that.
Yeah. You know what? I see what you're saying. There's absolutely room to argue on both sides. My point would be, listen, money can fix everything. And I do want to give myself a little bit of credit. I think I did finish that whole segment last episode with saying money can fix everything, but I don't even know if it could fix this case. And it did fix this case.
Yeah.
Myles Garrett's camp claims that the plan was so good. What could the Browns possibly from Friday to Sunday have told him? I have no idea, because the first few days of free agency haven't indicated that they've had any plan, really. And I'm not unless they really pulled the wool over his eyes, and we'll get to it, and they told him they were trading for a Super Bowl winning quarterback, and you ended up with the platter of horse crap that is Kenny Pickett. I mean, because technically if Andrew Berry said that, I'm going to get you a Super Bowl winning quarterback, he wouldn't be lying.
Yeah, I guess technically. I mean, he kneeled out the Super Bowl.
Yeah, no, the guy's got a Super Bowl ring.
Right.
So if he told him I'm bringing you a Super Bowl winning quarterback and Myles said, good, done deal, and then saw it was Kenny Pickett, hell, he might put that request right back in.
Yeah, right.
Well, the thing was he agreed to a full no-trade clause, though, which is interesting.
Right, so now if he does want to force his way out in 2 years, he has his, I guess, pick of the litter at that point, essentially, because he gets to pick where he goes based off of the offers then.
But if the Browns do like they did this time, they're not going to trade him again.
Right, yeah.
They're not going to move him.
Yeah, you're right.
So was it always about the money, Kevin? That's the question I have for you as I pick up my phone here.
I think clearly at this point you would have to say that it was clearly all about the money, because I feel like there would be teams lined up at the doors, and from what the reports are, there were multiple teams that obviously inquired on the best defensive player in football. So, I think at the end of the day it clearly came down to the money. Judging by the fact that he signed on the dotted line for a losing organization that he said he wanted no part of. So I think 100% it was about the money.
Okay, well, I agree that there was a big chunk of it that was a part about the money. I mean, I'm going to say as much as to 80 to 90%. And maybe, listen, there's probably nobody else who could have given him this kind of money that he would have accepted a trade to, because he said it was about winning, right? But if you go to another Super Bowl contender, Buffalo's strapped against
spending.
the cap, right? Washington, they're probably strapped. They had to get rid of Jonathan Allen, who I'm sure they didn't want to do, but he was a cap casualty. So anywhere else he would have went, he wouldn't have been able to make this sum of money. But because the Browns stink and they're going nowhere, he was able to do that.
Yeah, and doesn't this move just reek of desperation for the Browns? I mean, this front office, in my opinion, is just getting. Whenever they're told no, they just can't accept no. They did the same thing with Deshaun Watson in 2022.
It was different.
They did the same thing with Deshaun Watson in 2022. They offered him the contract. They offered the Texans the 3 first-round picks. Deshaun said no. He narrowed it down to 2-3 teams, whatever it was at that point, and the Browns sent him $230 million fully guaranteed money. Myles Garrett says he doesn't want to be a part of this franchise. What do? We offer him the most money that's ever been handed out to a defensive player or non-quarterback and guaranteed him the most ever. This front office just can't stand to be told no.
I got a big problem with what you said. It's different. It's not the same situation under any circumstances.
It's not the same situation, but it's a similar situation.
It's not.
It absolutely
is.
No,
how can you say that? You got one guy who could hang up the cleats today and he's going to Canton. You got another guy who is quite literally, in some statistical categories, the worst quarterback since the merger in 1970. How is it the same? It's one guy who's been a franchise icon and your best defensive player, we both said and confirmed that we believe in the Cleveland Browns history, versus a guy who had 24 sexual misconduct allegations against him and, oh, by the way, hadn't played in a year. Myles Garrett's still playing at the highest level. He came in 3rd place on Defensive Player of the Year voting.
Deshaun Watson was a 3-time Pro Bowl quarterback.
Had not played football in a year. So at that, and they knew wasn't going to be able to play football. So the guaranteed, it's completely different.
Okay, did they or did they not offer Deshaun Watson a contract and Myles Garrett a contract, and they both said no? They countered with record-breaking deals, and then they both accepted. Is that not the same situation?
It is, but it's different in the sense of the person you're offering it to. The variables are completely different.
I agree with that. But at the same time, you're talking about a Defensive Player of the Year, and at the time they traded for Deshaun, he's a 3-time Pro Bowl quarterback. I don't care if there was a year off or not. He was a 3-time Pro Bowl quarterback. You were told no, and that they did not want to be a part of your organization. You turned back around and offered them record-breaking deals for a situation that neither of them wanted to be a part of. It's organizational malpractice.
So I cannot consider these two situations the same. I can't. I don't see it. Because
you think Myles Garrett's going to go out there with a potential Kirk Cousins at quarterback? You think he's just going to go out there and give it his all now that he's got $130 million guaranteed to him?
Myles Garrett gave it his all last year, and the team stunk. They were out of it by Halloween, and he still gave it his all. He wasn't loafing around from what
Myles Garrett loafs out there sometimes.
I don't think he was. I mean, he still was.
I'm
not
saying he's a 100% loafer by any means, but
no,
he
was still
off.
Playing a high level. The bottom line is, okay, so to me, I can't even say giving the money, because the Browns chose to give the money to a guy who had not played in a year and who they knew was not going to be able to play for the upcoming year. You knew he was going to be suspended some way, shape, or form for what he had done, and at the time, the crimes he was suspected of committing.
I agree that the players that they offered the contracts to are different 100%.
So how's the situation not different then?
Because they were told no originally, and that the players did not want to be part of that organization, and they still turned around and offered them record-breaking deals money-wise just to be a part of that organization because they can't stand to be told no. The situation being the same as me talking about it from the Browns' perspective, not player perspective.
Yes, but you got to the Browns, sure, that part you could say, yeah, they offered the money, but offering money, the other part of it is completely different to me, because you're offering money to.
I agree with you on this point, though.
Okay,
I agree that the players they offer the contracts to are obviously completely different. Myles Garrett has been a staple to the city of Cleveland for the last 7 or 8 years, has been the face of the franchise along with Nick Chubb, and has played immaculate football for the Cleveland Browns. 100%. Deshaun never played for us, whatever, but the situation in the sense of that they were told no, could not stand the fact that they were told no, got desperate, and offered record-breaking deals, that is the same.
But here's the question. How do we know the situations? Because from the Browns' point of view, the reports have come out, this money was there all along. So whether they said, okay, they offered him the money, so maybe I'm assuming this is incorrect, but maybe it wasn't about the money. Maybe it was about, okay, the plan that they presented to him over the weekend was just so grandiose that he just was like, the hell with it, I'm signing here.
Do you think it's a coincidence, though, that he's the highest paid defensive player in NFL history or non-quarterback in NFL history?
No, not at all.
Yeah, not at all.
No, but he deserves to be paid.
Sure.
The line is you're worth what somebody's willing to pay you. So I guess from that point of view, Deshaun Watson stinks. He's horrendous. He's useless. All of the above.
Yeah.
But the Browns were dumb enough to be willing to offer it, so you could still say Deshaun Watson's worth it because some idiots were willing to pay you that money.
Which actually, isn't it great now that we can say there's finally somebody who received more guaranteed money than Deshaun, with Josh Allen getting the contract he got?
Yeah,
Josh
nice.
Allen $250 million guaranteed, Deshaun at $230, so no longer can say he's the most guaranteed contract money in NFL history.
Josh Allen deserves every penny of that, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
The deal's worth it. I mean, that team will go nowhere without him.
Hey, listen, I agree with you.
So, listen, we're going to agree to disagree about the Browns it being
I have to agree with you. I 50-50 agree with you on that. The one part I agree with you on.
Okay, fine. Well, I still don't agree with you on the other parts. That is what it is.
Whatever.
It's just we're gonna have to move on because
okay,
we're gonna waste these people's time arguing about this all night. I mean, I'm sure they might, hopefully they were entertained by it, but what the hell? I mean, I can't see it that way. So, at this point, would you have rather traded Myles Garrett as you sit here tonight?
I think like I said at the very beginning, as soon as we started the show, I never wanted to see and never do want to see Myles Garrett in another uniform. But from a business perspective, I think it made the most sense for the Browns to trade him and for Myles Garrett to move on to a different team. So I would say, using my head, I would say yes, that I wish the Browns that would have traded him.
Yeah, clearly that from their point of view, they thought nothing was worth having him on this team. And I mean, listen, they're a bad team as is. But if you don't have Myles Garrett, they're even a worse team. So I get it from their point of view. You don't want to get rid of, and you got to think from these guys' point of views. They're on the hot seat, the guys who are making all the decisions. Well, one would think. Who knows? Yeah. They probably aren't because the Browns do everything ass backwards.
Right.
Okay, so they're on the hot seat, right? So from their point of view, they're thinking we have to win this year, and how the hell are we going to win without 95 out there? From their point of view, I see why they were so hell-bent on not trading
They
him.
have to perform to save their jobs.
That's what I think they're thinking.
But at the end of the day, does that not lead us to NFL purgatory potentially? Just by trying to get each year to be around 500 or better, and that's it.
Well, what's it matter? We've been in NFL purgatory for a quarter century. What the hell's the difference? We've been awful for the better part of 30 years. So what?
I wouldn't say that's NFL purgatory though. I would say NFL purgatory is where you're like too good, you're not good enough to actually make noise in the playoffs or barely squeak into the playoffs, and then you get eliminated by a Kansas City or a Baltimore, one of the elite teams, but you're not bad enough to where you're getting top talent in the NFL draft, and you're just kind of that average team year in and year out, like the Jeff Fisher teams that you always allude to.
Yeah. And Mike Tomlin. Yeah.
Yes, that's a perfect example right now. I think the Steelers are in NFL purgatory,
and they've been for a little while.
They've been for a few years.
Kevin, maybe this is just me being selfish. I'd rather be in NFL purgatory at this point than just suck, because we've sucked for so long. So purgatory is a step forward.
Man.
We've been so bad.
Yeah, but purgatory is not a vision at the end of the day. I get the having a top 5 draft pick. There is excitement about having that because you think you're going to get somebody special or whatever. But the year in and year out of it does suck. but at least there's potential for like a vision. If you're in NFL purgatory and you're just getting, 12 to 13 year average NFL quarterbacks at the end of their career to get an 8-9 season every year, there's nothing to look forward to ever. I would almost rather have the years where we suck and we're drafting.
I'm gonna have to disagree with you again.
I don't know what NFL purgatory team can you think of that actually made noise ever?
The 2000 and I can't remember the year. I want to say
talking about the Seahawks,
the 17 Titans.
Oh,
that went to the AFC title game with Derek on the back of Derrick Henry.
Oh, Marcus Mariota.
No,
was Marcus Mariota
Tannehill.
Quarterback? Was he?
It was Tannehill. Tannehill threw about 8 to 10 times a game in the playoffs, and Derrick Henry carried the ball like Earl Campbell style from the 70s, 80s, where he carried the ball, like 50 times a game. They got all the way to the title game against the Chiefs. That's one that comes to my mind on the top of my head. So
maybe.
Listen, as much as I sit here and rip the Steelers, they get their butts kicked in the first round every year. But still, the excitement of going to the playoffs, rather than your season being over by Halloween, I'd rather have it. We've had way too many seasons that were over by the end of September.
Sure. From a season-by-season basis, I 100% agree. I would rather watch, pick a year, I'd rather watch a 9-8 team than a 3-14 team any day, any year. But when it comes to actually building something, I think you have to have some of those crappy years in order to actually get to where you want to be at the end of the road.
From a Brown-centric point of view, I'm going to challenge you on that, though, because we've had how many crappy years and we've gone nowhere. So it doesn't get, if the people making the decision stink at it, what doesn't do anything.
Yeah, but I mean, the Bills at the end of the day had the crappy seasons to get to where they are now.
Yeah, they did, but now they got there.
I mean, it's very rare that you find a Kansas City or a Baltimore or a Philadelphia where they just move on, or even a Green Bay where they can just move on from quarterbacks as easily as they can. It's very hard to do that.
I don't listen, from the Browns' point of view, I don't care. Go to purgatory, because I'm tired of just downright sucking. It's gotten old. It's worn thin. And I mean, listen, and also from a fan point of view, by just downright sucking every year, you lose generations of fan bases. I know for a fact
that's fair.
That we both there's people our age who do not root for the Browns because they were so awful when we were younger.
Yeah.
So awful, and they won't do it. And then there was a bounce back during the Baker era where you had kids were grown up Browns fans again around here. That was the way it was, and they were Browns fans, right? And you cannot afford to lose another generation of fans. The Browns have already cost themselves thousands and thousands of kids in Northeast Ohio who root for the Steelers, who root for the Ravens, who the hot team when we were younger was the Seahawks. They were real hot. Everybody root for them. The Chiefs now, you see a lot of these kids now, they root for the Chiefs because the Browns are so bad. If you're in purgatory, you have a hell of a lot better chance of retaining fans than you do when you just suck year in and year out. And that's what they've done, and that's why they've cost themselves thousands of millions of kids who've grown up in this very region who do not root for the Browns because of their total ineptitude and failure.
No, hey, listen, I agree with you on that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to actually building a team, I mean, when it comes to keeping a fan base, obviously the more wins, the easier it's going to be to keep fans to come to the stadium and watch you. But when it comes to the actual building of a team and actually wanting to get to that end goal of a championship and competing for championships, I don't know if just staying in purgatory is what's best to do that. At the end of the day, you get a 7 seed, but then, like I said earlier, you face a Baltimore, a Buffalo, a Kansas City, and you get smoked.
No, I see your point of view, but just through a Browns lens, they've stunk. It's done nothing. They've stunk for a quarter century, and it has done nothing. They have nothing to show. They have one playoff win.
Yeah, but how many? Okay, so how many teams do you consistently see in the top 5 with us? If we want to range from 07 to 18, whenever it was, were there the Jaguars were there pretty frequently. I can't think of a whole lot of other teams that were there like consistently with us. You know, the Bears here and there.
The Jets have been there.
The Jets, yeah, 100%.
They've been up there for a long time.
So like I can think of like let's call it 6 teams maybe that are consistently there. The other, so like half of the top 10 probably consistently there. You know, I'd say there's a 50-50 chance then that. I guess that's kind of countering both of our points then.
Yeah, that's back to my original point. So, hey, we're disagreeing, but it's it's the way we see things tonight. No, we bring you our honest. We don't sit here and script anything or rehearse. None of that takes place here on the Cleveland Sports Room. Everything is our authentic feelings. Like, this is truly how we both feel about it, and I'm just tired of stinking. Like, I don't want to see kids that are growing up younger than me, it's already starting to happen. When the Browns, and I can recite one specific example, obviously I'm at every Browns game. When the Browns play the Chiefs, I'm looking behind the stands on the field, and I see kids everywhere, Mahomes jerseys, they're already getting back to that point where they're losing kids again, and you can't just keep losing fans.
Well, yeah, I mean, the Chiefs right now, though, for the NFL are what the Warriors were back in like 2017-18, though.
No, I agree, but, listen, those people, and I hate to be so negative about it, but the people who I will root for the Browns come hell or high water no matter what, and I'm not giving up those people are starting to die off, and you don't want to start losing and they've already done it. And what I'm saying is they literally cannot afford themselves a second cycle. And you know what helps prevent that? Not continually sucking, and at least giving people a shot where it's so stupid, but people just love to see the orange and brown up there in the hunt graphic. And if we see that every year, then God bless. I mean,
we're in the hunt 10 weeks in every year.
Come on. I mean, give yourselves a chance. So, moving on, though, speaking of purgatory, this is a perfect transition. A guy who was part of it for a while, Kenny Pickett is a Cleveland Brown. Dorian Thompson-Robinson in a 5th-round pick, the one they acquired from Detroit for Zadarius Smith, get flipped to Philly. And in return, Kenneth Pickett is a Cleveland Brown. Your thoughts?
Yeah, so not a huge fan. I realize that he's coming in as a 3rd stringer, but I feel like why would you trade for Kenny Pickett to be a 3rd stringer if you could just like maybe take a shot at another rookie? Like, it doesn't have to be DTR that's back there. You can draft another guy in the 5th round and see if he's maybe better than a Kenny Pickett. But yeah, I didn't really understand it. I get, not having, the quarterbacks on the roster at the moment and going after one, but I didn't think that it would be a trade for a 3rd stringer.
I right now, I'm worried that with what's happening in free agency, and if this Kirk Cousins thing doesn't work out, I think Kenny Pickett's going to have to play a hell of a lot more than people realize, and that does not mean anything positive for the Browns. Like, this guy stinks. Like, I'm sorry, there's nothing there. There's nothing that excites me. Like, they could have traded for any other quarterback, and I think I'd have been more excited. Like, he's
not starting though. Like, I don't think there's anything that we need. I don't think Kenny Pickett starts more than 2 games this year.
It is the Browns, and often they get relegated to having to play their 3rd string quarterback more years than not, because they just, unfortunately, quarterbacks just get hurt here consistently. And like, I will almost guarantee, actually, the hell with it. I will guarantee you right now, Kenny Pickett ends up playing 3 or more games for the Browns this year.
3 or more?
Yes. Guaranteed.
Okay, are you saying playing in or starting?
Starting and playing.
Starting.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. I don't see 3 starts for Kenny Pickett this year. So you're going over 2.5. I'm going under 2.5.
Okay, fair enough. No, listen, I just don't see what they see. Like, literally, to me, it's just like another WTF move from them, and that just happens so often with them. Like, I get it. Okay, so they're so strong. Like, they're so cap strong right now. And they're so like forced to make moves on the margins. Like, the only reason that I could come back to myself and thinking of doing it is, well, we need a quarterback, and we can't afford Daniel Jones. We can't afford Sam Darnold. We can't afford Aaron Rodgers. Like any of these other guys are out there. We can't afford that. Well, hell, Kenny Pickett's still on a rookie deal. He's cheap. Yeah, bring him in. That's literally the only thing I could think that made them pull the trigger on this.
Yeah, that's the only thing that I thought of too, and that's the only thing I've really heard anybody even say about this deal is that's probably what the thought process was. So this kind of leads me to my next question. What do you think is their overall game plan at quarterback right now? Because I think this raises more questions than answers.
I don't know. Myles Garrett sure as hell thinks it's a good idea. No.
Yeah, sign the dotted line for this one.
Well, I think the Browns' idea is good if they wanted to give me 123 million guaranteed reasons to think it was good too. But no, honestly, I have no idea. Like as I sit here tonight and by the time this comes out on Thursday, knowing our luck, they'll probably have something figured out. But I know, Zach Jackson, who's covered the team for a long, long time, was quoted this morning on the radio saying Kirk Cousins will be here by the weekend.
Yeah, I heard that.
That's the only one I can think of. Because the well's dry otherwise of guys who could actually feasibly start. My one that I know that a lot of people would hate, my dumb idea for a lottery ticket was Daniel Jones.
I thought that was a good idea.
I thought it was too.
I thought it was.
We had talked about
that was one I agree with you on
way
too.
back when.
Yep.
Months ago. But I also did not see Daniel Jones getting a deal worth $18 million.
With Indy, which was interesting. I did not see them as a Daniel Jones team for some reason.
No, I had heard that Indy was definitely their GM had said that Anthony Rich, we're going to bring in competition.
They clearly like those big mobile dudes. Anthony Richardson and Daniel Jones now.
The only other one that I can think of is besides Kirk working out, which I'm not all that thrilled. Rodgers. Do not even entertain it. It's just a circus coming in here, and they're independent circuses of each other. You bring him here, you're just making something that will compete with Bart and Bailey's, man. It'll be a circus of the century. Who's the most comparable franchise to us is the Jets. They tried. You guys are mirror images of the Jets. You're both historically awful. You saw that blow up in New York. Don't think it's going to work any better here because it isn't. So keep him away.
No, it's not. Yeah, no. Rodgers in Cleveland. Would that be Manziel in Cleveland? Basically, you think it would be?
Oh, it'd be nuts. It'd be a circus of mass proportions. Like I just said, the Browns and Jets are side by side. They're like twin brothers of each other. They're just awful.
Yeah.
So you saw the two independent circuses collide in New York and create a greater one. That's you. Don't do what they did. Learn from your twin brother, please.
Right.
So
you think it's going to be Kirk, though, then?
I would think Kirk, the only other one that there's noise about, but I think it's more fan than any actual insider talking about it, Flacco again.
So that's what I was going to bring up. I think so. I've mentioned this a few times that Kirk Cousins would be my option A for the Browns this offseason. And I've actually mulled that over the last week and a half and I actually think he would be my option 3. Flacco would be in the top 2 for sure for me. And I don't know how realistic that is, but I think it would make a ton of sense given the success that he had in this offense. Granted, he wouldn't have Amari Cooper. He'd have to get used to Judy now being his wide receiver 1, so that might be an adjustment. But he's had success in this offense. Another one that I have not seen anybody bring this up yet, but I think it would make a lot of sense as well. What would Jacoby Brissett look like back here?
Well, he signed today with Arizona.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah.
Dang.
Because
I did not see that update.
I love that idea too.
Dang, I did not see that update.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea too.
We ran a very successful. If you remember, dude, before Deshaun got thrown back into the fold in 2022, Jacoby Brissett, we were a top 10 rated offense.
Oh, he was excellent. Him and Flacco were both really, really good here.
Okay, so now Kirk's my option 2. I would love to see Flacco back here, just given the success. And you're looking at both of those guys as potential one-year guys for your rookie that you're thinking at 2 that you draft. So I think either way, one of them on a one-year deal, I'd like it.
Yeah. Another one. I know I going back all the way back to November, I've talked about this one. It literally brought me immense sadness yesterday to see that Justin Fields had signed with the New York Jets.
Yeah.
Because that was my number 1 guy.
I know he was.
For a lot.
What do you think about that fit there with him? I mean, he's back with Garrett Wilson.
I think it could. I think it could work, and I think it could work. But like, I also there's like a little bit of like they're the Browns, so you always have that like back of your mind thought like it's the Jets, so he's probably gonna get hurt or something's gonna like you just think that way. But
yeah, you do. I mean, I don't. Justin Fields, his third team. I mean, at the end of the day, though, Baker's on his fourth team. Things are going well for him. Sam Darnold's on his, third or fourth team now? Maybe fifth.
Well,
I know it's at least 3.
I think it's 5 because Jets, Panthers, 49ers, Vikings, Seahawks.
So maybe he does. Maybe he does get a little bit of a revival. I know, obviously, Justin Jefferson did wonders for Sam Darnold. Maybe getting Justin Fields a legit number 1 and a Garrett Wilson, maybe that does wonders for him in his career. Hopefully it does.
Yeah, I'm rooting immensely for success for Justin Fields, unless it's against the Browns, of course.
Yeah.
But
it's nice that he's not in the black and gold either
yeah,
anymore. We can
that's
actually
great. Root for the guy.
Yeah, we can root for him now.
Honestly,
I like Fields.
Like I said, I'm sitting here hoping to God that Aaron Rodgers goes to Pittsburgh because I can't wait to see that circus. That's going to be a good one.
Oh, did you hear? I don't know if you listened to Aditi Kinkhabwala the other day. But she was on one of the radio shows, and she had said that they were asking her what the quarterback options look like for the Steelers, and she said if it's anybody but Justin Fields, then how they actually manage that quarterback situation is the reason why. Because I guess the Steelers' number 1 option was Fields. I guess they wanted him, they went after him, and he wasn't happy with how they handled him in the Russell Wilson situation. So
they did do him dirty. I mean, make no mistake about it. You got him off to a 4-2 start, and then they kicked him to the bench.
Well, if you remember, obviously the Steelers' offense was actually humming with Russ for a few games, and then they hit a little bit of a lull. And I guess the coaches and some of the players were on Tomlin to make the switch back to Fields, and they just never did it.
Yeah, then the Steelers ended up stinking, though. I mean, I think they lost 6 in a row to end of the year or something, including the getting blown out in the playoffs. Like
I didn't think it was that many. I know they went on a little, which they tend to do go on those skids. I think it was like 4 out of 5, maybe 5 out of 6, something like that.
Yeah. So anyway, I'm curious to see what the situation is there. Obviously, it's hard to make fun of them right now because our situation is. I mean, we have their cast off is our only healthy quarterback right now.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to make fun of them right now.
It is annoying for somebody that we've made fun of for the last couple of years because we can finally say the Steelers drafted a first-round quarterback that's a bust, and then we ended up trading for him.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
I guess maybe that's a little bit of karma because they ended up trading for Justin Gilbert, if you remember that.
Yeah, and that's actually a good segue though, because speaking of former Steelers first-round bust. One of the moves the Browns actually did make, and we'll move on. We'll get to the few moves around the margins they've made today. Devin Bush coming back for a second straight 1-year deal. Yeah. I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either.
Honestly, listen, he's never going to be what the Steelers traded the moon, the stars, and the earth to move up for him and gave up a lot to move up to the top 10 to get him. He's never going to be that guy. But I thought last year on a 1-year prove-it deal with the Browns, he was okay.
Yeah, I thought he was fine. I think he's just a decent, like a great number 4 linebacker, but like an okay 3.
Yeah,
if he's your
fine.
third linebacker, I think it's okay.
So the Browns brought him back for a second straight 1-year deal, and I really got no problems with it.
Yeah, I think it speaks a lot right now. Actually, speaking of the linebacker position for the Browns, I think it speaks a lot that they haven't addressed linebacker too heavily yet about how they feel about JOK's health. I'm starting to get the idea that he's going to be back at the start of the year.
We'll see what they do here, but they have not said anything on that one way or the other, and you haven't heard from him. So that does lead me to be a little bit nervous, but we'll see what happens there because that's an all-pro linebacker coming back, and that's a big change.
It's been Barry's best draft pick, bar none, I think.
Absolutely. So Devin Bush, I got no problems with him coming back.
Same.
They actually were able to get him back for even cheaper than they did. I think they buy $500,000. I think this year it's $3.5 million. Last year was $4.5 million. So,
interesting.
When you have a $250 million guaranteed quarterback who stinks, you gotta make those kind of moves.
Find the bargain deals.
Yeah, you gotta cut $1 million off from one of your marginal linebackers. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, former first-round pick. With the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they declined his 5th-year option. The one thing I do like about him, I was looking at his numbers today, 3 out of 4 years has played all 17 games. This year, unfortunately, he did not. He only played in 11. Browns get him for $4.75 million. Edge player, rotational edge. They need one. Fine, good deal. Got him cheap. Good.
Yeah, I thought it was a good deal, and the Browns and Andrew Berry's front office, I should say, is starting to get a little bit of a reputation for going after these early round draft picks on the D line that don't really work out. You know, we saw him go after Tack McKinley a couple years ago. Taven Bryan was on this team, and obviously looking now at Joe Tryon. I think it's a fine move. I think it's fine. A nice rotational edge rusher.
Absolutely, and I think there's something there. You know, and he's obviously on a clear prove-it deal, so the best thing that could actually hope for the Browns is comes in here and has a phenomenal year and go gets his bag next year by someone else.
Sure.
Another move for the Browns, they cut Dalvin Tomlinson. Unfortunately, I thought Dalvin Tomlinson played really, really well in his 2 years here, but again, with the albatross in the room, it's another move they're forced to make because I'm sure they'd love to have Dalvin Tomlinson too. But when you have that albatross tied so tightly around your neck, who's just ruined your entire franchise for a decade, it is a move you have to make.
Yeah, it's a move you have to make, and we better hope that Michael Hall has a big time sophomore year because we're expecting a lot out of him now.
And I honestly, even with him, they need
They're still thin.
They're thin as can be. Like, there's a couple guys who used to be here who I wouldn't mind coming back.
Jordan Elliott.
I don't think he's available, is he?
No, I thought you were just talking about past defensive linemen.
Oh, no. I was talking about guys who have been here who I think would be great to like. One that comes to mind would be Larry Ogunjobi.
Would love Larry Ogunjobi back.
Yep, there's one.
And it would keep him where he loves to play. He loves to play in the AFC
This
North.
guy wasn't very good here. In fact, he was horrible here. But Taven Bryan, I mean, I don't know. Like, they are gonna. This is the moves they have to make with the past horrendous decision they made. You know, obviously Dalvin was really good, and oftentimes you look at the Browns' PFF grades, and he'd be up near the top of the list. And he didn't stuff the stat sheet a lot, but he just controlled that middle on the defense.
Yeah, he absolutely did, and I think a name that would be interesting for the Browns to go after would be Javon Hargrave. You know, it's a guy that they went after a couple years ago, actually. If you remember, when they didn't get him, they actually settled for Dalvin Tomlinson. So maybe the Browns revisit that with the injury that he's coming off of.
Yeah, that'd be nice. I just don't. Again, the money, too high.
It'd be interesting to see how the money would work. I mean, keep in mind he is coming off an injury, so maybe it's one of those 1-year deals, and he hopes to cash in after this year or something.
Right. And then the final move, a new swing to Ecklentown of 10-year veteran or 11-year veteran, Cornelius Lucas, 2 years, $10 million. I actually like this, and I actually think it's an upgrade over the guy he's replacing in James Hudson.
I 100% agree, and everything I've read, and Listen, I'm not going to pretend like I've seen him I've noticed him out on the field playing and how good he is or whatever, but everything I've read has been good about him. And, you know, based off of what we had in James Hudson, like you were saying, you know, I think anything almost could be an upgrade there. And to get a veteran in his early 30s, played both positions pretty frequently, I'm happy to have him.
Right, absolutely. And if DeJuan's not ready to go, you know, right away at left tackle with the knee surgery he had again, or Conklin, you know, something that you got someone who's actually plug and you can somewhat trust out there.
Yep.
And James Hudson getting $12 million guaranteed from the Giants to be their swing tackle kind of shocked me.
Yeah, it kind of shocked me too. But hopefully this works out deal. I feel like the Browns have actually done a pretty decent job of going after, you know, free agent tackles. You know, like, I mean, granted it was the John Dorsey era, but you know, Chris Hubbard was a great swing tackle for us. So hopefully Cornelius can do it for us.
Yeah, and you know, I think with the albatross they have wrapped around their neck, they've done okay so far in free agent. I mean, they just can't do anything.
They can't do a lot.
Like, I see people on Twitter sitting here, you know, crying and whining. Well, they haven't gone after any of the big. Well, I'd love to know where the money fairy is. Send them our way.
And when they go after big names, has it ever really worked out unless it's been a Sheldon Richardson or a Dalvin Tomlinson? You know, they go after the John Johnsons, the Juan Thornhills, you know, the players like that end up just coming here for a bag. So I'm perfectly fine. And we're so used to being free agency champs every year. Like, it's so, and where has that gotten us?
Nowhere.
Yeah.
Again, the quarter century of failure for the most part, we just keep alluding to. So obviously, we'll see what happens. The big thing that I think everybody's curious about is who is going to be under center. I mean, because that's the biggest, most important position in sports. And right now, The only one you have is horrendous. So we'll see where the things go from here.
It's going to be interesting. And I saw Schefter with the Myles Garrett deal. Schefter actually said that he's not so sold on us going 2 anymore like he had previously said for the last couple weeks.
Yeah, I did see that as well. So interesting.
Which I thought it almost locked us in at quarterback even more.
Yeah, I thought so too, but we'll see. Interesting stuff to monitor there. And obviously, I think by next week's podcast, we will have a quarterback to discuss.
I hope so. I hope so.
So, all right. Let's switch to let's turn your frowns upside down, listening audience, and talk about the Central Division champion Cleveland Cavaliers and 15 in a row game winners. No Donovan, no Ty Jerome, no problem tonight. They take care of the Brooklyn Nets, and I shouldn't say no problem because they were down by a significant margin, but Kevin, this team just has that. They don't quit.
They just seem to find a way. And Darius Garland was Mr. Fourth Quarter tonight. I saw he had 16 or 17 points in the fourth quarter to lead us back, and that was awesome to see out of him, especially for the struggles he's had over the last few weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. And I watched the fourth quarter, and at one point he took over. Like he had scored like 10 straight points for us, and you know what? It's good to see for him because we're going to need that kid big time here in a couple of weeks, couple of months. So when Donovan doesn't play, I think the microscope shifts to him, and tonight he delivered.
Yeah, he absolutely did. So,
question is at this point with the Cavs, I mean, what more can you say? How good can they be? I mean, I think I've made it clear on this podcast. Kevin's a little more hesitant in saying so. I think they're good enough to beat Boston, hands down. I'm ready to put that all together. I think they are going to put it all together, and I'm ready for them to beat the Celtics. And at this point, I think they will.
See, I think they are good enough to beat the Celtics. I just don't think they will. So okay. my whole thing is it seems like every time we face the Celtics, and granted the last game, which was an amazing game in Boston, Cavs obviously coming back from over 20 down and winning there. But it's just when I feel like whenever they face the Celtics, they do not play up to what we're used to seeing them play as, and I just need them to get over that hump before I can confidently pick them.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like at this point, you know, even watching them against Milwaukee the other night and just watching them play together, and if everybody's healthy, I just see a team that I refuse to think can't or won't do it at this point. I think they got the coach. I think they got the superstar. I think they got the supporting roles. I think they're deep as hell. To the point where transitioning to that, my next topic is, we'll get to it in a second. I had a question to ask you about the rotation, but
sure.
I think, looking at it, I think everything's come together, and I'm going to go ahead and say I think they're going to go to the finals. And Cavs fans, I wouldn't make any vacation plans in June this year because I think you'll have a finals to watch.
You think they're going to win it?
I think they could. I'm in the finals where you are against Boston. I don't know for sure. I think they could.
Does it depend on matchup for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got to see what happens. And obviously, forecasting 3 months in the future, they got to stay healthy. But they're doing a hell of a job of that because their guys, they don't play a lot of minutes, and they're starting to rest guys a lot. Donovan took a rest tonight for, a groin injury. Ty Jerome, they said was straight out for rest. And he's one that I worry about because he's never logged this many minutes in his career. But they have done a good job of managing his minutes throughout the course of the season.
They've done a great job of managing everybody's minutes throughout the season. I feel like it's rare that we see multiple players play 30-plus minutes. Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great job because you look at a team, like the Knicks, they're a great team, I think, but they, first of all, can't beat the big teams. And then second of all, when Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson are playing 44 out of 48 against a meaningless game against the Charlotte Hornets, you're like...
In game 54.
Yeah, right. Like, that's going to kill you.
Oh, 100%. And yeah. That's going to be the Knicks' downfall, and it's been the Knicks' downfall the last few years.
So, also, the DeAndre Hunter effect. Since the guys showed up, they haven't lost. I mean, Kevin... We'll give you your flowers on this one. It's
going to have to be week after week at this point. You're going to have to give me them.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's what you've been doing.
This guy refuses to allow that team to lose. And, 15 in a row. But congratulations on them. They won the division. And I hate to pour cold water on the fun, but I mean, they did win the most useless thing in sports, the NBA division title, but who cares? It's a nice accolade, and we can hang another banner at the Rocket Arena.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely been a great season for the boys.
So, historic.
Yeah, it's been phenomenal.
It's been historic.
It's been absolutely phenomenal.
A quick Cavs question.
Yes.
I see people complaining a little bit here and there about them resting players. Would you rather them rest players or not rest players, being that they are so darn good and just so far ahead of the rest of the pack? Like, on a Tuesday night tonight, were you mad to see Donovan Mitchell and Ty Jerome rest? I was not.
I wasn't, no.
Like, I see people on Twitter and, Instagram and friends of mine, upset. Oh, they're resting again. Guys, it's okay because you'll appreciate that in April and May and hopefully June. I promise you'll appreciate Donovan Mitchell sitting out against the Brooklyn Nets on a Tuesday night game.
65.
And I get it. Tonight was a little bit different because you could have clinched home court for the playoffs and you could have clinched division. They're too good. It doesn't matter. They all got to do
it anyway.
They got it all done anyway.
Yep.
And I know that, tonight, they were down, but at no point, like, the Cavs are so darn good now. Like, you sit there and watch them, and they're down by, 15, and you're like, okay, game's not over. Like,
I know.
We're good. We're cool. We'll figure out a way. Like, they were down 25-3 against Boston and won the damn game. Like, come on now. Give them their flowers. They're allowed to rest people, guys.
I actually walked over to the studio tonight, and when I left the house, they were down 15, and when we turned it on over here, they were up 2. I was like, oh, shoot, I missed something.
Exactly.
They're never out of it. They're probably the most fun Cavs team that we've had. Obviously those LeBron, Kyrie, Kevin Love teams were phenomenal, but they weren't as fun as this team was, I don't think.
Yeah, absolutely. And one last thing to touch on the Cavs here. I would like to see Javonte Green in the rotation. So would a lot of people. I don't think I stand alone in that corner. But the problem is the Cavs are extremely deep. If he gets in the rotation, somebody gets knocked out. Who are you knocking out to put the Javonte Green in? Or are you putting Javonte Green in point blank?
Yeah, I was going to say, who do you sub out for him, though, because of how deep this team is? And it's such a luxury. I feel like we're almost complaining about how many players we have, that we can play because we're trying to figure out lineups and you don't want to, but I don't know if you can add another player because you're talking about an 11, 12-man rotation at that point if you just add him to the lineup and keep everybody in it. And then
that shrinks come playoff time too.
Right. Yeah. You're trying to get that down to 8, 9 in the playoffs. So I don't know if I would sub anybody out for him right now. Isaac Okoro's been playing pretty good ball. He did have a bad game tonight. He missed a few open jumpers and turned the ball over a couple times. But I think overall he's played well enough to at least keep his spot in the rotation. So I don't know who you really sub out. Dean Wade had a rough night tonight as well. But for the most part, he gives you consistent defense and a 3-point shot. The thing is with Javonte Green, he's 6'5". He's about wing level height, but he's a good rebounder. He's like a Josh Hart type rebounder. Hits the 3 at a good clip and plays good defense. He's kind of an all-around player as well. So I don't know how the Cavs are going to figure it out, but I trust Kenny.
Yeah, so do I. Personally, come playoff time, I'd yank Okoro, just because he gives you zilch on offense, and I could trust Javonte Green to hit a 3 in the playoffs. I can't trust Isaac Okoro to do that.
I agree with you there
at all. So I get it. Isaac's defense is superb, and it's his value because he provides nothing on the other end of the floor. So to me, looking at it though, come April, I can trust Javonte Green to hit that corner of that wing 3. And them to sag off on him and him to knock him down and then make him come out. Okoro's not going to make anybody come out because he's just not going to hit him.
Yeah, no, I honestly, for how much of a Isaac Okoro apologist
you are, yeah.
Apologist that I am, for sure, I would probably make this a very similar switch, maybe the same exact switch, because I trust Javonte Green's been in the league for a decade now.
Been around for a while.
He's had some pretty big moments that he's at least been a part of. I trust him to be at least a part of that. An open corner 3 with 10 seconds. We're down by 2 left. I'd want Javonte open in the corner as opposed to Isaac.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, it is that time of the show. What's the time for, Kevin?
Odds and ends.
That's right. It is odds and ends time. So let's start a little bit of baseball news. Gabriel Arias, that is, and Juan Brito have both been horrid during spring training, but those seem to be the 2 favorites for the job. But what about Tyler Freeman? The guy's hitting 460, and I know you don't want to put too much into spring numbers, and he only hit 209, and eventually they had to get rid of him as the everyday center fielder last year. But at this point, would you be comfortable with Freeman opening up as the opening day second baseman?
Yeah, I think I would. I mean, if I'm not confident in those younger guys, we're coming off an ALCS appearance, I would play Freeman. I mean, if he's giving you a consistent bat in spring training, granted it's spring training, ride that hot streak and see how far it goes, and then if he hits a lull, let's see how long that lasts and if he can get back up to what he was previously. I would say ride with Freeman if he's still this hot.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's unfortunate, though, because I think with Arias out of options, it's not a fair competition. I feel like Arias could literally not get a hit from now until they leave Goodyear, and it's just his job. And it's just unfortunate because he's out of options, so they want to give him one last chance. I don't think it's fair, but I think if it was a true fair competition, I think Tyler Freeman should be your second baseman. So
yeah, I get your point completely, though. I think it's probably going to end up being Arias just for those reasons that. Yeah,
and I hope it's not. Like I hope.
Same.
I hope that maybe if see if you can trade him before the end of spring. Like, a lot of times you see that happen. Those last few days of spring training, some marginal roster trades often do take place in the MLB.
Yeah, and I mean, a few weeks ago, I was campaigning for Juan Brito.
I was all about it too. I get it. He did hit a nice 3-run homer the other day, but overall, he is just. I honestly think, and I'm someone who's crucified them for service manipulation. I don't think it would be service manipulation. I think he does need to open up the season with the Clippers. So
yeah, I would agree now.
So, all right, flipping it to NCAA college basketball. We have been updating you guys on the Cleveland State Vikings for quite a while here, and unfortunately, the Vikings NCAA tournament hopes came crashing down last night as they lost a tough game in the Horizon League semifinals. Obviously, Horizon, a one big league. They lost to their rivals, the Youngstown State Penguins, 56-54. I actually did tune in and watch most of that game, and I was sad to see the Vikes go down. They'll probably end up potentially in the NIT, most likely not. Most likely one of those other tournaments that nobody watches, like the CBI or something. But the Vikings did not end up getting it done against Youngstown State in the Horizon. Robert Morris actually came out of the Horizon League, and they'll represent the Horizon in the NCAA tournament. And speaking of conference tournaments, the MAC tournament, another little note here for you, coming to Cleveland as it usually does. I went last year. MACtion's fun, man. I'm sorry. I know it's not the highest level of college basketball. When you get to sit that close and see athletes that are a hell of a lot better, faster, and stronger than you ever were, it's fun. It's fun.
Sure.
And the Zips, the favorite to win that and represent the MAC in the NCAA tournament, obviously another one-bid league. Zips are the 1 seed, so obviously not home court advantage for them, but it's nice with them only being 45 minutes down the road. It'd be nice to see them win the MAC tournament, take care of business, and
yeah, I think the Zips will be well represented.
Yeah, and I think that obviously if they have to match up with Kent, that's obviously a huge rivalry.
Right.
So we'll see what happens there. And those MAC tournament games of Kent and Akron have gotten quite physical and interesting over the years. So MAC tournament starting tomorrow down at the Rocket Arena, as it is here in Cleveland every year. And then also, quick point of view, the NCAA first round will be in Cleveland this year. First and second rounds of the tournament will be in Cleveland next weekend. So obviously we'll probably talk about that next Tuesday when we record next week's episode, as the NCAA tournament's getting time, Kevin.
It's getting exciting.
It is.
I love bracket season.
Yep.
Love it.
Championship week here this week. And one last college basketball story to end the odds and ends and end the program. They ended up losing tonight, but quite something that I think is worth mentioning. The Delaware Blue Hens were the 12th seeded team in their conference tournament. I mean, had zero chance to get to the NCAA tournament. They win 5 games in 5 days, and they lose tonight to the number 1 seed in their conference, and that was UNC Wilmington, who will represent I believe that's the Coastal Athletic Conference in the NCAA tournament.
Okay.
But still crazy. They went on we saw that last year. NC State did it. They had no chance, and then they ended up going to the Final Four. It'd have been cool to see if Delaware could have got in, but they did not. They came up 4 points short tonight against UNC Wilmington. But I'll tell you, bracket, like you said, bracket week, championship week, whatever one you want to call it, it gives everybody a chance with these conference tournaments, man.
It is awesome.
You never know.
It is awesome.
With that automatic bid on the line. So I thought Delaware deserved a little bit of flowers, a little bit of Blue Hen. Probably the first and last time we'll ever talk about the Delaware Blue Hens on this podcast. But tonight, you did something amazing enough. You deserved that. We got to talk about you a little bit. And then final thing for odds and ends, as we pointed out already, Selection Sunday is this Sunday. So we'll have a bracket to talk about next week on the program, baby.
That's
so
right.
That'll be fun. So I know producer Derek, he loves filling out brackets. He's a big big March Madness guy. You know, not the biggest sports fan in the world, but this March Madness turns everybody into sports fans, including our own here, producer Derek. So excited to look forward to that next week. And I think that's it, Kevin, huh?
Yeah, that's about it, right?
All right. Well, thanks, Derek. Great work as always. Thanks, Kevin. Nice to debate with you a little bit tonight.
It was.
And we'll see you guys all next week. Make sure to check us out on our YouTube channel, TikTok, Instagram, Twitter. We're everywhere. Apple
at CLE Sports Realm.
Yes, on all those platforms. Thank you. And obviously, and then we are available, as I said, our YouTube channel, and then, of course, Apple Podcast and Spotify. You can find the new episodes dropping every week. So thanks for the support, everybody. Keep watching, keep listening, keep following, giving us that thumbs up. We appreciate it.
Go Cavs.
All right. Good night. Peace out.